Thank you very much, Andres. Thank you for inviting me to join. And I also wanted to join Vladimir Milov in thanking the European Parliament for adopting yesterday's resolution on attempted murder of Alexei Navalny, and also for your great personal input into making that happen. Thank you very much. It's great to know that we have great friends in Europe who stand for the freedom of the people of Russia and Belarus. We'll come to that in a moment. But what is important about yesterday's resolution is that I think it's the first international document which portrays a comprehensive picture of what is going on in Russia. Not just particular circumstances of Alexei Navalny's attempted murder, but I also thank you for the clear language you use and for pointing out at the responsibility of the Russian authorities for use of military-grade chemical weapons. But the comprehensive picture is very important, and I also want to stress to add some more details just to give an idea what a difficult times these are for those who struggle for freedom in Russia. Just what happened within the past 2 months, July, August, early September. We didn't only have the poisoning of Alexei Navalny. There was an arrest on fabricated charges of democratically elected governor of Khabarovsk, Sergei Furgal, which essentially triggered all the Khabarovsk protests. There was an arrest on fabricated charges of an independent member of Moscow City Parliament, Alexei Navalny, who was elected a year ago with the help of smart voting that was supported by Alexei Navalny. Before Navalny was poisoned, just a few weeks before, there was a new fabricated criminal case opened against him. There is now a fabricated criminal case opened against the head of Navalny team headquarters in Irkutsk, which is I think, in my opinion, the next best candidate to be another Khabarovsk in terms of a widespread protest sentiment, where United Russia had lost many elections in the past few years, and which is also very angry with Putin. I mean, I can go on for a few hours listing just some cases of intimidation, fabrication of certain criminal and other charges against oppositioners, which happened just within the past few weeks. Now, the big question is why this is happening. It's clear that Putin is very much fearful of the destruction of his popular approval, and he's fearful of the upcoming big political events of federal importance, like the upcoming federal State Duma elections, which are due to take place a year from now, but there's a widespread expectation that they might be moved to an earlier date to catch the opposition off guard and manipulate the results. Putin is really afraid of the similar type of political crisis that we see right now in Belarus, where, you know, the hidden legitimacy crisis was long in the making. And all of a sudden, finally, people of Belarus had said that they had enough and they want change. This moment is clearly approaching in Russia. We do not know when and how it will happen, but you can see many verifiable data, not only the regular opinion polls about Putin's public approval, but also there's been this deeper study by a Belanovsky group. Sergei Belanovsky is a renowned Russian public opinion scientist. He was, alongside Mikhail Dmitriev, one of those folks who had predicted the major protests of 2011-2012 in Russia, with their early studies indicating that trouble is coming for Putin. Right now, Belanovsky group essentially speaks about like a total destruction of public support for the authorities for many reasons of economic crisis, which never goes away, and Western sanctions are playing an important part here. I'll come back to that in a minute. Many broken promises, huge expectations raised with Putin's so-called re-election in 2018, after which he essentially abandoned people. He raised retirement age, contrary to what he has been saying all along during the campaign and previous years of his rule. He abandoned people during the COVID crisis because he never released massive government aid to help the crumbling economy. Russians are extremely unhappy, particularly in the past few months. They have been very unhappy about that. So Putin sees that big political trouble is coming. How that plays out, I mean, the example we can see right now on the streets of Minsk, Grodno, and other cities of Belarus. So when people ask me a question, why did he move right now with poisoning Alexei Navalny. And there's no question that Putin is personally responsible because, look, with such a strong vertical of power, he's been building for more than 20 years, where you can't really do minor stuff without his personal approval. You can't really spend several $1 million at Gazprom without him okaying the contract, right? You have to get a president's green light on minor, relatively minor middle-level personal appointments in the government and big state companies. And somebody in the system would risk doing a thing like that without actually asking a permission of person number one. Now, give me a break. That's not serious. Not to mention that, again, as correctly mentioned in the European Parliament's yesterday resolution, military-grade chemical weapons are under strict control of the government. And even if occasionally it might not be the case, the government is still responsible because how did they allow it to happen, right? So it's all, I mean, I'm pretty sure, 100% sure, there is some sort of a document with a sign and a seal exists somewhere in the very secret safe deposit boxes of the Russian government that we allow you to take this quantity of this military-grade chemical weapon to undertake this operation. I'm pretty sure that one day we'll find it. But coming back to a question of as to why he did it, there's a lot of similarity with the murder of Boris Nemtsov. Boris Nemtsov was murdered just a year and few months before the upcoming Federal Duma elections. The purpose was to destroy the ability of the opposition to make it into parliament and actually elevate our struggle to a totally new level. It's very clear that Putin is much fearful of that, particularly in the background of Alexei Navalny's smart voting, because previously Putin's tactic was to just remove the opposition from the ballot, not allow real competition. And now Navalny had created a magic formula, which leads it to, you know, Kremlin's tactics to making no sense anymore because they still lose. Even if we're not on the ballot, they still lose, like it happened in the Moscow elections like last year and many other examples. So this is why it's Putin's understanding and the KGB understanding is, I mean, it's very primitive. You remove the person number one, you remove the leader of the movement, so the movement will most likely become destroyed. That was the purpose of what he done. But that was a grave mistake. We keep continuing and struggling. And essentially, I have to reassure you that we have been discussing with Navalny for a long time how to operate with his lasting absence. Because another normal practice is to arrest him for a month or two and actually remove all the possibilities to communicate. So we were preparing for situations like that. And you see that our team is operating in a full capacity. We had a major test in the past week with the regional elections. I'd say my personal evaluation of the results is mixed because I really hoped for a bigger results. And I think the major disappointment is that we were not able to achieve runoffs in any of the governor election races. We had 18 races. And in at least like 4 or 5, including Irkutsk, Arkhangelsk, Leningrad Oblast, and the others, we really had great hopes that runoffs would happen. Now, runoff is extremely psychologically important because runoff is, like Vladimir Milov had explained, runoff is like a real black or white yes or no referendum type of vote. Anybody who is unhappy with the authorities can go and vote against the incumbent guy. So this is essentially how the crisis in Khabarovsk had been emerging for the past couple of years. 2 years ago, they had a runoff at governor elections. Independent governor won. A year from then, he allowed relatively free legislative elections to take place in the region, with United Russia ending with like 12% and but a couple of seats, right? So what Governor Furgal did, he essentially liberated his region from the rule of United Russia. And why these massive protests are happening right now in Khabarovsk? Because people liked it. They liked the new existence without the monopoly of United Russia in power. So they are struggling to get it back. And this is what Vladimir Putin fears most, that one by one, Russian regions will become liberated from the rule of monopoly power. Of course, we have issues with so-called systemic parties like communists or LDPR, but look, it's still better than monopoly. It creates a more open, more comprehensive, more competitive picture. So this is why Putin is so much afraid of smart voting. And again, the bad thing is that the smart voting this time didn't happen to achieve a lot of successes on the governor elections. Now, two reasons for that. First is fraud. And here's where we go back to the constitutional plebiscite, because we are moving more and more towards Lukashenko type system where public does not have any control over vote count. And this 3-day voting is an essential new tool that Putin has introduced. Russian internet was actually filled with all this picture of broken safe deposit boxes, which were sealed on Friday by the Electoral Commission with ballots in, and people came Saturday morning and it was all broken, so somebody tampered with it during the night. I mean, it's just like all over the place, right? So that's one thing which was one of the major electoral novels tested in July at the constitutional vote, and now for the first time in the regional elections. The other thing is ability to vote outside polling stations, primarily on enterprises. It makes it very easy to manipulate because you do not actually try to control what your employees do on Sunday during the voting day, but you assemble them at workplace on Friday and say, vote right now, do as I say. And independent observers are in most cases not allowed to enter the enterprises because of the past regime and so on. So a combination of new methods of fraud introduced, plus, as Volodya Karamurza said, like total elimination of competition in governor races. People get attracted when they see some real opponent, like we saw in the Belarus elections, like we saw in Moscow elections, like Stier or Khabarovsk election. When, I mean, you have some absolutely loyal people who are not only loyal, but they are like absent. They specifically do nothing to participate in campaigns. That creates a situation of very low interest. So this is why no governor races produce runoffs. But there are good news as well. The good news is that the smart voting is not only working, but this was essentially the first time when heads of Navalny teams in regions participated in regional legislative elections, city legislative elections. And they passed. They were elected by the people with significant majority, Sergei Boyko in Novosibirsk and Ksenia Fadeeva in Tomsk. This undermines the whole credibility of Putin's notion that Navalny is just a blogger. He's not a serious political force. The biggest outcome of, the positive outcome of this September regional vote is that we have proven that our teams in the regions have solid backing as a strong, maybe major real opposition force to the incumbent authorities. There is much to learn from this experience, but we see, as a result of these elections, we see the clear way forward. We see how the success was achieved, how it's possible to get it done, and we're gonna replicate this experience on other regions, essentially creating more and more Khabarovsk. This is how I see the situation in Russia changing. Frankly speaking, I don't see a stage for like a major nationwide protest like we see in Belarus right now, because there's much less uniformity. Russia is a very diverse country with different regions and so on. But what I see happening is more and more regions completely losing confidence in Putin and turning into more and more Khabarovsk. There are like dozen candidate regions for that. We're going to work on that. Our approach is working. We have a lot of points to work on and to improve our performance, but we were really encouraged that that our friends and allies in the regions got elected first time they participated in races. That there's a clear way forward for the Russian opposition, actually meaning that Putin is right to fear of what we're doing. And we're going to take this battle to new levels in upcoming elections, particularly State Duma. I think I'll finish with that and take more in the Q&A session.